The concept for e-part trade is basically, in my opinion, there's a big hole in the internet. So the internet started many years ago, but there's never been an online business community for racers on the World Wide Web. The need for e-part trade is actually quite obvious. Basically, people in the business of auto racing need a place online to hang out and to get their problems solved.
It's extremely simple for a buyer or for a supplier to interact on the platform. The first thing you need to do is sign in, which is free. And the second thing is, when you see a product that you're interested in, all you need to do is click on request more information. If it's a company, you click on request more information, and then from there, it is forwarded directly to the buyer or to the supplier.
You can go to epartrade.com, you become part of a community of businesses in racing, and it makes sourcing products much easier than just on the internet or using Google.
At ePartrade, there is no e-commerce. It's literally a connection just like at a trade show. So now, any time of the year, a buyer could reach out to a supplier through an email.
More than that, it's a place to go just to keep current every day. So it's a good place to start your workday in your racing business or in your offices of your professional race team. And you know you're current when it comes to new technology, industry news, technical papers, technical videos, all of that and more. We're not looking for a million hits per day. All we want is people who are really the volume buyers of racing products in the racing industry to be part of the little world of e-part trade. We have racing businesses participating from around the world. So you get suppliers from around the world, you get buyers from around the world.
ePartrade really eliminates having to travel, closing down your shop. Now you have a place to showcase globally your racing product and technology.
Good morning from California and welcome to Race Industry Now, the technical and business webinar series from ePartrade, presented to you by ARP and Performance Plus Global Logistics. I am Francis Savignan, the founder and CEO of ePartrade, the global online platform for the performance and racing industry. Today, we have a double feature. First, we're going to talk about Pikes Peak. Has a big celebration this year for their 100th running. And then we'll be joined at 9:45 with Beth Pareda and Lynn St. James, who are going to make basically an announcement about their new motorsport association for women. So thank you for being with us. With me this morning are Judy King, the co-founder of ePartrade, and a wonderful host, three times NASCAR crew chief champion, Mr. Jeff Hammond. Judy?
Thank you, Francis.
Good morning, everyone.
Hi, Jeff. Good morning. So I just wanted to step out and announce that we have a new sponsor on Race Industry Now and Race Industry Week, which was one of my long-term PRI exhibitors, and it's Performance Plus Global Logistics. They are racers themselves, and they just wanted to step it up on this platform because they know we have so many new racing businesses as a resource on this platform. So we welcome them.
Thank you. So, Mr. Hammond, we are going to be joined with four wonderful guests. And Jeff Swartz, I see Rice popping up. I think we have Lonnie Answer, and we should be getting Rod anytime. So, Jeff, please take over.
Thank you very much, Francis. And again, congratulations on our new sponsor right now. Really excited. Everybody's jumping on board here as far as the ePartrade is concerned. And also eager to welcome our guests for today's event about Pikes Peak. Guys, I've been doing a little studying and actually made a couple of phone calls and talked to some people who have raced up there. And I'm really interested to hear what you've got to say. 100 years of anything is impressive. And the fact that you guys are celebrating this. And when I look at the history book and look at the people who have been to the mountain, guys, yeah, I haven't been there, but guess what? I've just now added it to my bucket list. So I'm going to be out here one of these years when you're racing. I've got to see this. And one of the guys I talked to earlier was Wally Dallenbach Jr., which I'm pretty sure you're familiar with him as well as his brother and his dad. So I'm excited. So y'all just take it away. Tell me what I don't know.
Well, thanks, Jeff, for having us. And for sure, it's a special place. it's a place that I've raced at for 20 years and in multiple Porsches along the way. But the thing that Pikes Peak is it's the second oldest race in America. It's the only older race is the Indy 500. It's a very challenging race because of the schedule for it. We practice the mountain in thirds, so we don't ever run the full course until race day. So that makes it very tricky. Our times are limited on the mountain till from sunrise to basically 8:30 in the morning. And you are expected to kind of learn the course in 3 or 4 runs each morning. And eventually you get through the race week and race day comes, and it seems to be a whole nother situation on race day because we have weather issues, we have warmer temperatures than we tested early in the morning. The car dynamics are completely different. And, the competition all has that moment to up their game and lay it on the line and race up this mountain. And that is kind of really separates a lot of people of the people that are able to step up really quickly and run quickly on that one run. There's no pit stops, there's no laps to come back and make up time. It's just purely lay it all on the line for that one run.
Well, Jeff, like I say, what I have continued to understand about this place is it's not a pushover. I mean, it's like you say, you've got certain restrictions to make it challenging, no matter who you are and no matter how good you are. Because when you finally have to put it all together, it's when you find out who truly is the king of the mountain.
That's for sure.
All right. All right, young man, fire away. What you got to share with us this morning?
Am I the young man?
Oh, yeah. I promise you, you are a lot younger than I am. and you also are very good at going up and down this hill, as I like to say it. I don't know what the proper lingo is within your clique. I just heard Wally talk to me last night, and he was telling me about when you go up down the hill, you'll understand what I'm talking about. And I think that's why we're here today, is because not enough people truly understand the challenge that has been set forth by your organization, by the folks at Pikes Peak, to make this race as challenging as it is. And, I knew about it. As a matter of fact, I was really surprised when I started doing a little more research of seeing that the legendary Cotton Owens and the Silver Fox himself had been to Pikes Peak and ran. I just thought that was just so cool to realize that a NASCAR champion, a man who'd won Daytona and places like that, had been to Pikes Peak and raced. And I think your record is phenomenal, right? I mean, it's unbelievable. So carry on from there.
Yeah, thank you. Well, first off, I've had 2 good life coaches in Jeff and my father, both through business, through work and up at the mountain. It is, as Jeff said, it is an endurance race throughout the week, but then it is a sprint race on race day. And although it's a mountain road and it is a paved road, you have to adapt the conditions and the setup of your vehicle. Oddly enough, still very much like dirt. The grip levels are low. It's not a rubbered-in track. You don't have ambient temperatures and road temperatures until race day that are suitable for a good setup. So a lot of teams that are maybe not as experienced globally in different forms of motorsports can get caught out. And then, those that obviously are very, very good, as you've seen in recent years with Peugeot and Sebastian Loeb, and Volkswagen with Romain Dumas, have put in incredible efforts. You need to do your homework. You need to have some experience. And on race day, you just need a heck of luck.
It's interesting you say that. And I think, Jeff, you can address this better, because I'm glad, even more so after hearing from you two, exactly, how Wally, he took some time and he, put in his 2 cents worth, which, if you know Wally, he can be very colorful. And, he was explaining even the day that he happened to win and outran his brother, which, again, looking at the records that Paul Dollenbach was, clearly the better of the family members that have come to the Pikes Peak hill climb. But he was sharing the same thing, and that the challenge of the mountain is the day that you race, because the weather is so fickle. It could be one thing at the bottom, it could be another thing at the midway point, and it could even be something totally more dramatic at the very top. And you have to be prepared to adapt as you go along, because as he said, it may be clear and you may all of a sudden get the weather blows in some fog. So it's the challenge is Mother Nature and what she throws at you, and having the experience and the adaptability to accept that and be able to make the most of the day, because there's no such thing as a perfect day.
Well, no, that's exactly right. And we have encountered those challenges where the starting line is in the low 70s or mid 80s even at starting line, and yet it's a freezing temperature at the top. So you'll sometimes encounter 3 entirely different weather systems on the way up in just 12 and a half miles. So it is very challenging. And like you say, it's an interesting, some of the people that I respect the most in motorsport and have been in awe of their accomplishments and all forms of discipline, when they get to the summit, it is an experience and a feeling that's unlike any other in motorsport. And I was talking to Ray Evernham yesterday, and he again reiterated that when he was there running a few years back, it was absolutely one of his highlights in his motorsport career. And when you look at what Ray has done in NASCAR and everything else he's approached in motorsport, for him to say that, it is a special moment, and it's a special challenge, and it's a special kind of personal experience to go against that mountain on the day.
So, Brent, how would you explain it? Because again, both you guys have had so much success there. Can you share a story with us that, were the one that stood out the most? Because I'm sure the first one is very memorable, but at the same time, there's got to be some others that jump off the top of your head that you just can't get out of there. You got it. You can share it with us.
Yeah, for me, as Jeff said, you have to have experience, you have to have knowledge. The race day, if you look at other forms of motorsport, typically you have championships made up of multiple rounds and multiple locations with multiple different setups. If you compress that down to one event decided that championship, and then compressed that entire race down to the single lap of qualifying decided that championship, that's kind of the intensity that is race day. So it is everything on the line. You have to have everything right. You've got one time through every single corner to get it right. The most incredible feeling is when you hit those first 2 corners off a rolling start, you feel the grip, you feel the balance, and you go, oh, this is good, let's push. And for the last 3 or 4 years, that has been the feeling. I was lucky enough to join Bentley Motors from the UK and be their driver. And we had a lot of success and it had a lot of speed as well. Last year, unfortunately, with a small mechanical issue, but it was an incredible opportunity for me, more as a mechanical driver from grip to learn and really trust downforce. And this year, again, is going to be very, very similar to that. And my first time driving a new vehicle, a Porsche. I've raced against them for years, raced against Jeff, and now I will be in one. So it's every evolution. We've had the opportunity to win overall in an electric car, which probably stands out as one of my biggest highlights. And again, that is the mountain against the elements, against the vehicle, and adapting as a driver. So the event has presented many, many fun years. Slightly scary now it's paved, but incredible vehicles, mostly unlimited technology. So I can't put out one single event that sticks in my mind, but it's been incredible, last 25 plus years.
Well, again, it sounds to me like the challenge and the experience from both of you gentlemen is just as exciting as the first time for whatever reason. Am I missing that? What I've just heard come out of y'all's mouths? I mean, it's like,
Oh, for
you know,
sure.
it's like Christmas. Okay. Y'all's just happens to come in the middle of the year. But if any kid at Christmas, including myself, I mean, I get excited no matter how old I am. I'm always excited at Christmas. So to me, you're telling me that Pikes Peak brings that out of you, in particular, every time you guys go there.
Absolutely. And, you know, you've got somebody on this panel, Rod Millen, Reese's dad, and Rod is the reason why I'm at Pikes Peak. And Rod was my inspiration to go into rallying, and Rod built my first rally car, and that rally car I was able to drive at Pikes Peak. And when I came back to drive the Porsche for the first time in 1994, Rod was there building that car for me. And at the same time, he was truly and still remains the master of the dirt up there. And you know, Reese and I have both had the pleasure of driving in all the surfaces of dirt and half pavement, half dirt, and then to the full pavement situations that we race in today. But, you know, I go back to my first run there. Rod was there with me, and Rod was coaching me, and Rod built the cars. And that's the real reason why I ended up at Pikes Peak. So even the first time, it was an inspiration for me, but it continues to be. And every year that I get to go there, it's a special year for sure.
Guys, I think we need to real quick, let's stop and answer some of the folks that are listening and watching. Number one, Lynn St. James, you know, and she's talking about how exciting it is and how crazy these guys are for racing up this mountain. I think from the onboards that people have, you know, videoed and everything like that, it really gives you a sensation that has gotten her attention for sure. And John makes a comment a moment ago. He's wanting to know about, you know, how the challenge, you know, of when it was dirt versus pavement today, guys. I mean, you know, and Wally addressed that. He says that, you know, this racetrack or this hill climb, what would be the race way to put that, guys? I mean, is it a hill climb or is it a racetrack?
It's a hill climb. We'll take
Okay.
care of the hill climb.
I don't want to not, you know, give it its proper due, but it, you know, to any surface or any circuit I hear that we're going to, you know, and you're running against time and running against each other, you know, it just automatically makes me think of a racetrack. You follow me? But I don't want to call it the right thing, but wrong thing. But I think everybody wants to know how different it is from when you first race there to what we're getting ready to see this upcoming season of this year in just a few months. What's the difference? I mean, where and what have you had to do that's, and again, I know if you go from dirt to asphalt, there's a big difference. There's got to be a driving discipline. There's got to be that grip level that you were referring to, Mr. Millen. All these things have got to come into play.
Yeah, for me, reflecting on the transition, the dirt in some cases was easier on setup, and easier. You had a constant slip. You broke traction off the start line and you never gained it until you lifted out a throttle over the finish. As we know, as drivers and racers, at the point that you've broken traction, you can sustain it with steering inputs and throttle inputs. When you transition to an all pavement situation, the biggest fear and the biggest scare is when you break traction, because it goes so much faster. And typically there's no bringing it back. Reflecting back to dirt again, you really needed to know the course. There was a line on race day. I can share this now because there's no dirt. That was taught to me by my father, that on race day, you have 5,000-10,000 spectators going up the mountain, and they will traditionally drive up on the right-hand side, the correct side of the course. Well, in practice, you may have been running a very flowing, fluid line that is the race course line. But in race day, you may sacrifice to find that compressed grip, that line that is developed from 10,000 cars going up the mountain. So you had to have the knowledge of the dirt. You had to know every corner to keep your roll speed up. And that was very, very valuable. Now you can be 5 feet to the left, 5 feet to the right. you've got a consistent grip and pavement. You can overslow the car and still have good brake, or not overslow the car and still have good braking to make the corner. So there's definitely things that have made it easier for people with less experience totally over the mountain to go fast. But really still on race day, you have to have that ultimate experience of knowing the weather patterns, knowing that the changes, the setup, and how hard you can push in certain areas.
Jeff? Have you got a feel the difference between the dirt and the asphalt today as far as what your challenges have been since, since that transition?
If he's gone, he was always cheating. He had weight over those rear tires, so he had plenty of grip.
Sorry about that. I had a little bit of internet connection here. So
Hey, that's okay. I have it happen all the time, so don't sweat it.
yeah, I think you were asking just about my impressions of that, of the difference.
Yeah.
I mean, Reese explained it pretty well, but it's kind of as a racing dynamic or a car dynamic. It's interesting because in the dirt days, as Reese said, you drove past the limits of adhesion. And when you would go into slip, you controlled it through the throttle and balancing the car that way. And that the energy was released when you went into slip, and it was just a transition from traction to slip. Where on the pavement now, we are driving right up to the edge of adhesion. And when it does go into slip, the energy that's released is really much greater. The transition is much greater. So you really have to respect that. And it's really comes from also knowing the course. And if you look at it, I think for Reese and I in our dirt days, we kind of, when we were running production cars, we were 12.5 minutes plus or minus 15 seconds. And now, Reese and I are both under 10 minutes on the mountain. So it's not just a couple seconds faster a mile. This is a huge difference. It's almost like watching the race and fast forward now.
Well, guys, I know that you both are very familiar with the Unser name, and John, I don't know if you see it or not, but Johnny Unser just made a comment saying thank you all for doing this. And if Lonnie Unser, which again, hopefully maybe she's going to join us here today, can take a spoonful of knowledge from each of one of you, she'll have a great run. So when you look at what this event has created, not just what both of you have as far as the history there, but some of the other folks, including and especially like the Unser family, they definitely have a love affair with this event. And the fact that you see the grandkids and other family members, I should say, also embracing this, it's got to be warm in your heart. I mean, it's got to be one of those kind of things. This tradition is continuing.
Yeah, and the Unser name has just always been an inspiration for me, and I've was able to race there a number of years when an Unser was on the mountain. And this year I am coaching Lonnie, and Lonnie is on, so Lonnie can maybe answer your questions. But I am really looking forward. I coach the Porsche GT4 Club Sport class, and Lonnie will be in one of those cars this year for me to coach, and I'm really looking forward to working with her and the other 5 competitors in that class. But I'd love to hear Lonnie of what she's thinking about this year.
Yeah,
yeah.
Can you
Good
hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
All right.
Good.
Okay,
Good to see
you. Ever since I started racing, the hill climb was always something people would ask me about and be like, do you want to do the hill climb? When do you want to do the hill climb, kind of thing? Just because my family has run it so many times and has an incredible history up there. So it was always something in the back of my mind. And last year I really wanted to go as a spectator. And when I went last year, I could feel the energy in the atmosphere. It's unlike anything else, even as a spectator. And so that day last year, I was like, okay, I know what I'm going to be doing a year from now. So I've been putting the deal together, and I'm just really honored to be racing alongside these guys and kind of follow in my family's footsteps. they have done an incredible job up there. I believe it's been 26 Kings of the Mountain on the hill climb throughout my family's history. And for 44 years in a row, they were on the podium 36 times. So it's a lot to live up to, but it's just cool. I'm a race fan through and through. So to be racing alongside, Reese and Jeff and be here with Rod and everybody, it's so cool for me. It's like a dream come true. It's just something that I'm honored to be a part of and want to soak up every second of.
Well, again, it's a pleasure to meet you. And again, understanding and knowing the answers, like I have had the privilege to, know these gentlemen, but have never really had the opportunity to watch them race the hill climb. I'm so excited for you. And I'm even more excited that you have guys like Jeff and Rand that are there. And I understand Rod is also on. And I'd like to get him to go ahead and join us also, because again, gentlemen, you have, along with the youngsters, have made this a historical event. And to see Lonnie now stepping up and saying, hey, I want to be a part of something that is 100 years old. And I think it's incredible. I mean, there's not many people around that can share the experience, the love and the passion like you folks can. So Rod, are you gonna hide out there any longer? Or are you gonna come in here and listen and be part of this? I won't bite. I promise you, I won't bite. I won't bite. Good to see you, sir.
No, thank you. Thank you. Wonderful listening to Reese and Jeff and Lonnie here. And, sharing all their experiences, I've got to reflect on perhaps about 50 years of considering racing. In my early days doing hill climbs in New Zealand, and always recognizing that Pikes Peak was going to be the ultimate hill climb. And in 81, I got my first chance to race there. Of course, that was on the dirt, and it truly was to me the ultimate hill climb. Racing to 14,000 feet, it presents many different challenges, one of which is the altitude, the lack of oxygen, not only for yourself as a driver, but also for your race car as well. And the engine setup is absolutely critical as you climb that mountain. Many of the old dirt car drivers, the sprint car drivers, were constantly adjusting their fuel mixture as they climbed up that mountain. Of course, today we have computers that can check the temperatures and the air pressures and so on, and automatically make those adjustments. So there's many different elements that makes Pikes Peak so unique and different. And as Jeff and Reese alluded to, you get one chance a year, one chance to really put the whole road together. And if you screw up, you got to wait 12 months to come back again.
Well, the thing that I'm hearing and I'm seeing is, and I use the analogy, it's like it's Christmas is coming for all of you. The little things, Rod, like you just pointed out, as far as the mixture is concerned, and Jeff and Reese, he said the same thing. The adjustments on race day, how critical and how crucial all of these things are. Even Wally was telling me that the year he won in 2006, he went and asked his brother, are you going to make an adjustment to your car? And in true racer fashion, Paul told him, no. He said, I went right back down to my guy and said, you better crank all the wing you can into this son of a gun. He said, because I guarantee you, he's going to be doing this, and this. He said, it was probably one of the smartest decisions I ever did, was getting where I could keep my foot down, even though he was probably going to run faster places on the course. He said, I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit of speed to have that control and get around those corners faster. So it's like, it's a mind game. It's a ever-changing last-minute adjustment that seems like factors into who winds up being the eventual winner. Is that a correct assessment?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely correct. And as the years have gone by, the competition has got tougher and tougher, and everybody's trying to outthink and outdo the other. I think one of the unique things for me about Pikes Peak Hill Climb is the unlimited class. The rule book was one page, and it was essentially safety elements, but you could be as creative as you wanted to be in terms of your whole vehicle design, whether it be the four-wheel drive system or the turbocharged engines or the aero package. And so you had freedom in a race car that typically you don't have in any other series. You're bound by all these rules and regulations. And at Pikes Peak in the unlimited class, there's no rules and regulations. It's sort of run what you brung and, give it your best and learn from that. And the following year, come back and see if you can go faster. And for me, racing in that unlimited class on the dirt was something very unique and special. And to this day, I'll always appreciate that.
Well, I need to correct something. A little earlier, we were talking and I made the comment that, and Wally gave me this word, so not just I brought it up. He said, drivers who race up here and go up this hill, you got to be a little bit crazy. But I had Tracy Fisher sent me a deal, said the racers are not crazy. They're bold and they're fearless. And I think that's probably more kinder, but probably accurate. You've got to be bold. You got to be fearless to go after this thing. It doesn't mean it don't scare you. I'm just saying, I like the way that they put it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm not sure about the word fearless. I hate the sight of blood. I cut my finger or broke my finger once, and I passed out. So
I could show you a picture.
but you've definitely got to be confident, and so you've got to know your machine. You've got to know what its capabilities are. We would practice a lot at local race dirt tracks and that to understand the balance, understand what we could adjust, with the car at the mountain, understand what all the aero package would be. Of course, once again, at that altitude, you've got to have a huge amount of aero shapes to get the downforce that we were looking for on a dirt road. If you knew what the machine could do, then you had the confidence with your engineers to make it go fast. And of course, in my early days in the 80s, it was truly a dirt car with no aero support. As we went on through the 90s and added all the aero effects, the driving style totally changed. Perhaps much more like on a paved road, where I had to be a lot straighter and neater, even though I was still on a dirt road and traction limited. So learning all those required skills to get the machine to go as fast as you could was another whole step for me. And once again, Pikes Peak is unique and different. There's no other race like it.
Well, real quick here, Frank has got two questions I'd like to ask Lonnie about. Number one, Lonnie, can you tell us about your Pikes Peak involvement? How much involvement have you had in the program? And what is your previous racing experiences other than this Pikes Peak venture? Will you be made, or this be your initial effort?
So I have been racing sports cars for about 6 years now. So I feel really ready that this is the point in my career where I'm ready to go conquer the mountain. And I will be racing in the Porsche Trophy by Yokohama in the Cayman GT4 Club Sport. So everything I've heard about those cars is they're amazing. They're really good cars on the mountain, very predictable, good to drive. And so I'm really looking forward to having my debut in that car, in that class, because it is more of a spec class. So that way it's really about the driver and the driver's ability. And for me, this race is all going to be about preparation, just making sure I'm as ready as I possibly can be for the hill climb, because it is my rookie year. Learning from Jeff is absolutely going to be phenomenal, and I'm so lucky I get to do that this year.
And well, I think right now, congratulations on being able to have this opportunity, and again, carrying on the tradition of your family. Jeff, can you explain, the various vehicle classes that are out there? I know I've read it here, but for those right now that don't have maybe the information I've got in front of me, we've heard Rod, talk about the open class, and you heard Lonnie talk about the class she's going to be involved in. How many classes are going to be out there? And also, I think that we've got to touch on the fact that, we've got internal combustion engines racing up down there with fuel injection and everything, but we've also got electric cars. And I wanted to get all of y'all's take on that as far as that, transition into the Pikes Peak hill climb.
I believe, I mean, Reese can probably correct me on this, but I believe there's 7 classes now. It's changed, a bit through the years. I focus on the class generally I'm racing in, and then also the GT4 Club Sport class that I coach in. So those 2 classes. But if you start with the GT4 Club Sport class, which is a spec class, which all the vehicles are the same in that class. And then we have the Time Attack class, which is a class that's more traditional in terms of the silhouette of the cars, closer to stock format. They're allowed to have modifications in terms of aero and suspension and things like that, but they're also somewhat limited in what you can do to that. And also from a mechanical sense, the engine that was originally put in that car needs to be in that car for that class, so that you couldn't make a car that was not turbocharged in the day be turbocharged at that point. And then the evolution of the Time Attack class is open class, and that's the class that you can take what you're doing in Time Attack and do a lot more modifications on it. That's a pretty fun class these days because people are getting monster horsepower out of cars and lots of aero on them. And it's becoming one of the most competitive classes because people are really testing the limits of what they can do in that class and manage it at the same time mechanically. Like Rod said, there's a lot of pressure because of the altitude on you personally, but what the car goes through of trying to maintain horsepower and run cleanly and run in a way that everything is working at an optimum. It's a really challenging situation because there's just no place to test at 14,000 feet other than on Pikes Peak. So that part's difficult. There's also kind of the classic class at Pikes Peak is unlimited, is the open wheel class. And that open wheel class, it ranges from, it's ranged from ex-Indy cars to all sorts of kind of buggy-like cars and Sierra cars and all those, but it is exactly what it says. It's an open wheel class. And then there's an exhibition class, which is kind of a catch-all for all different types of vehicles that don't necessarily fit in all the in another class, but it's also a fun class because of the eclectic nature of what gets to run an exhibition. And then there's unlimited, which is I think run whatever you want to bring. So I think those are the classes. Reese, maybe you can correct me on that.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much covers it well. I guess maybe one thing outside of the classes that hasn't been touched on, as Jeff and Rod mentioned, Dad, is the cars go through an extreme changes through altitude. A traditional race course again is on a flat plane, staying at a single level. We're going from a start line just over 9,500 feet to 14,100 and how many rocks they've stacked on the top now, I don't know, 14. But you also, it's the only event that I run oxygen, or most of the top racers will run oxygen into your helmet. That's not really something you see traditionally in motorsport. Yeah. It keeps you focused, it keeps you calm, and it keeps you complacent in the environment that you're in. So not only is the car going through a lot of changes, but you are as well. It is a sprint, and it's the only race that I give a maximum of 100% to every year.
You're talking about giving oxygen to you, the driver. How
yeah,
about the
through
fuel
through the helmet?
Through the how about the fuel that the cars do run? Do they run oxygenated gasoline or do they run pure gas? I mean, is there a specific kind that most people kind of choose over another when it comes to racing up there?
Again, it comes to the environment. Obviously, I would say the most familiar fuel for the top cars are along the lines of something like a methanol or an
Okay.
ethanol. For the fact that you are running in a low density air environment with a lot of ambient temperatures, typically on race day, and that will cause a lot of raised temperatures in fuel that can then cause issues with the engine. And I am spacing out on the terminology right now. Dad can probably correct me here. So something along those lines is definitely going to produce a cooler temperatures, combustion temperatures to have a more sustainable average from the bottom to the top of the mountain.
So Reese, Harold wanted to know, does four-wheel drive provide any kind of significant advantage?
Yeah, for sure. It always has when it was dirt, and it remained and transitioned over to the pavement as still an advantage. A lot of the classes may restrict it purely based on some of their legalities based around production vehicles, but it is still definitely advantage to have the mechanical grip of all four tires pulling, especially when you consider, again, this is a hill climb mountain road. There's a lot of burst speed, so a lot of torque application, generating speed and braking out of short corners. There's not a lot of sustained corner roll speed, say like a Formula One track where the aero force in the car is constantly up to speed. You're generating and braking that. So four-wheel drive is still very, very important. I wish I had it this year.
You'll be just fine.
So Lonnie, what are you doing to get prepared? And are you going to, use oxygen going up the hill? And one of the things John Crawford offered this was, great comparison from the dirt period versus pavement is called the climb dance. And then if you take a look at what Sebastian Loeb's run, you can see a lot of difference as far as technology. So two great videos. If you did not know that, young lady, they were sharing that for you, I guess. But what are you doing getting prepared for this? Physically, mentally, everything. What is your process?
Yeah, I've just been spending as much time as I possibly can getting prepared for this. I think video is probably the most important thing, just getting the repetition of seeing the corners and getting those in your mind. I think that's from everything my family and everybody has told me, you get into trouble when you don't know the climb. And so just knowing it, I think is half the battle. So watching video, and then in the background, you can kind of see my simulator a little bit, doing some work on the simulator as well. And fortunately, I'm really lucky because I live about an hour and a half away from the hill climb. So I've been going up a few times and just driving the mountain and really just being there and feeling the atmosphere and getting used to all the nuances of it. I drove up there with my dad a couple of years ago because I wanted to, for him to tell me about his experience on the hill climb and to kind of see it firsthand for myself for the first time. And I can remember going up the mountain, looking down the cliffs, saying, "Dad, how are you not terrified?" And he said, when you're up there, you're so focused on what you have to do, and you're so focused on the race and the road itself, you don't even notice. And when I got to drive up myself, just nice and slow for the first time, even then it was clear to me that you really just focus on the road. So maybe I'll have a different experience come race day, but that's kind of my thoughts on it as of right now.
Folks, we only got about a minute here. I will hit one thing real quick. Number one, is there any prize money, or what's the award for whatever class you win?
Making it to the top.
Yeah, that's the main
Okay.
thing.
So it's,
Yeah, I
it
think
is a lot of, it's a lot about pride. That's what I wanted to hear. And Lonnie, the other thing real quick, how many other women will be participating this year? And to all of you, Victoria Thomas wanted to make sure that all of you knew this. Best of luck to all of you participants, because she's going to be cheering you on, and I'm excited for you. So do you know how many other ladies will be up there, trying to compete?
Yeah, there will be 2 others, which I'm really excited about. One of them is a good friend of mine named Laura Hayes. And so I'm just looking forward to it. And it's cool to see more and more women get into this. And hopefully next year we'll see more.
Well, I hope that right there is the trend. And again, speaking of women, we've got Lynn St. James coming up here in just a second. Thank you very much for joining us here today on the Portrait. And we'll have to have you guys back and gals back, because I would like to get a progress report. But always, I think this needs to be something we do heading into Pikes Peak each and every season, so we can get caught up on what happened as far as last year and look forward to what's getting ready to happen this season. So again, good luck, and y'all do well. And I can't wait to read the results.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Registering on ePartrade is easy. Fill out your name, email, phone number, and create a secure password. Next, select your business type. Choose supplier if you're looking to display products or services and connect with buyers. Choose racing business if you're looking to find new parts and connect with suppliers. Choose race team if you own or are a member of a professional racing team. Begin typing your company name. We most likely already have your company in our database, which you can select from the drop-down. Then, enter your job title. Choose Claim Company if you'll be editing your company profile. Other members of your company can choose Join Company if they'd like to use ePartrade as well. You can view and agree to our terms of use here. If you'd like to receive our weekly newsletter, choose Accept. Click Register Now, and your registration will be submitted for approval. You'll need to confirm your email once it goes through. To keep our platform industry only, you'll be approved shortly after. If we require additional proof of business, we'll reach out. Welcome to ePartrade.